Well, I-5 is one of those greatest controversies. I like to say it's probably the biggest controversy to hit the city in the last half of the 20th century. And it begins with the fact that the state of California, through its division of highways, was almost imperial in their setting up of roads and freeway systems. You know, this is huge amounts of federal money were available after Eisenhower was president to build national highway system. And California was certainly in the front of that movement to do as much as they could. So one of the goals was to build a great highway from Mexico to Canada, and it would be known as I-5. And huge amounts of money were invested in it. The road was built both north and south, and it was getting closer and closer to Sacramento. And a controversy began to evolve over where the freeway should be in Sacramento. The preservation community was very concerned about the buildings in downtown. They wanted to save as many buildings as possible, and they wanted the freeway to be in Yolo County. And the developer interests in Sacramento, the city council, the Sacramento Union, Chamber of Commerce, redevelopment agency was interested in having it in through the central city. So a big brouhaha developed. McClatchy, because of their influence with Kennedy, involved in the Kennedy election, asked John Kennedy to intercede in this matter. And so his administration, right at the beginning as they took office, froze the money for I-5. And it stayed frozen, and both ends were completed and the middle wasn't for a number of years. They managed to free that money up just about the time Kennedy was assassinated. And I-5 was completed, and the compromise was it wouldn't be a straight line through downtown. It would bulge out and preserve the little area we call Old Sacramento Historic Area. And that's why you see the bulge. But the challenge was you had to be high enough to get over the railroad yards, which was elevated. You had to be low enough so that you didn't build this Chinese wall down the waterfront. So they went they went under Capitol Mall to keep the view of the Capitol pure, and they were underground at that point. The underground point is the big challenge because it's called the boat section. It's submerged in the ground, and if the water rises in the river too high, the pressure in the ground could pop it. So there actually is a system in there which, if the water in the river gets too high and the pressure gets too great, that they open the valves and they flood it. So it could be at times I-5's not passable. It actually flooded once. They actually put boats in there and ran them up and down in the boat section. They had boats. It wasn't because the river got too high, and it wasn't because they had a serious attempt to see how it worked. It was because actually a city engineer accidentally opened the wrong valves. Actually, when they built it, they did that excavation. They had to run pumps, huge pumps, 24 hours a day to keep the water out of the ground so they actually could pour this concrete slab in the ground. And they were taking so much water out of the ground that the Crocker started to sink. And there was actually compensation to the city for the damage they'd done to the Crocker, which paid for the restoration of the main gallery.